Laura, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So tell me about yourself and your businesses.
Absolutely. My primary business is copywriting and mentoring other aspiring and up-and-coming copywriters.
So how did you become a copywriter?
Well, it's a wild story. In the year 2008, I graduated from college. I thought I would become an investment banker because I went to a fancy school in New York City. And once you graduate from there, you become an investment banker. It was 2008, though, so the economy crashed. Lehman Brothers went out of business. That caused a ripple in my school. We were terrified. And to be honest, I probably would have been a lame investment banker anyway. So I found myself Googling the phrase, how to make money online. That was probably at about 3 a.m. in the morning, by the way. And I discovered what internet marketing was. And I discovered things like search engine optimization and building a website and setting up paid advertising. And then I learned about this thing called copywriting. I had always fancied myself a writer. So when I learned that copywriting was the way to actually be a rich, potentially, writer, I was like, oh, that's the type of writer I'm going to be now. And the first piece of sales copy I ever wrote sold my own services as a copywriter. I called out the elephant in the room type of objection, you don't have experience. I said, that's right, I don't have experience, but if this piece has compelled you, take a chance on me. And I undercut everybody else in the marketplace. And overnight, I made about $600 via PayPal. And as they say, nothing was ever the same.
I love that story. But tell us more. Like, did you start working with people you knew? Like, what's next?
So that post was on a place called the Warrior Forum, which was the internet marketing forum of the day. It was very active, thousands of users on at any point in time. And there was a marketplace where designers or copywriters or assistants could offer up their services. And that's where I posted. So these weren't my friends. These were not people that I knew at all. But via the internet, I was able to connect with them, share my message, and compelled them enough to hire me. And from there, I ran a referral-based business for over 10 years, just by delivering great work, delivering it on time, and being committed to my craft.
So is that what you're doing now? Do you have a company that does it? Tell me more about what you're doing now.
Now I take on a few select partnerships. Because through all of these years in the business, you learn about so much more than just the copywriting. You learn that the traffic source has to be great, ideally. You learn that messaging across all of your platforms has to be congruent. You even learn about margins and how to make sure my customers are getting the best margins they possibly can, being as profitable as they possibly can, having the highest average order value, lifetime value that they possibly can. So with all of the extra knowledge that I've gained over the years, it just makes more sense for me to be in a partnership type of deal so that I can really offer everything. In addition to that, I train a lot of copywriters too. So not just in the art of writing copy, but in how to get great deals with clients, how to service them so that they're totally thrilled with the work, how to combat some of the mental trash and issues that we all have, but that especially come up for you at the beginning. Is this good? Am I worthy? Should I charge this much? Or should I do everything for free and struggle for years and years? And I'm here to tell them, no, don't do that.
Tell me more about that mind piece. Like you're starting out in anything almost, and you doubt yourself. Tell me how you talk us through that.
Self-doubt is inevitable, I believe. So I think if you could take a moment to observe how you're observing things and to tell yourself, this is okay. It's okay that I feel this way. And if you could potentially frame it as, because a lot of copywriters especially have this desire or obsession with success. I have to be successful in every piece I write or else I'm a fraud or I'm a failure. And so what I like to ask them is, can you fail your way to being an accomplished copywriter, just to try to reframe that concept of failure. Because not every single piece is going to work. Things will go wrong. Or you may submit a piece to a client that never even sees the light of day. So that could be demotivating. But if you realize that it's part of the process and that it's actually a good thing because you're getting the lesson that you need to get out of it, you become so much more empowered. And take all of those experiences, but keep looking forward. Don't look backward at them. Don't try to fix them. Don't overanalyze them.
I like the don't try and fix them. Like, stop spending so much time looking back.
Yes. And there are language tricks that you could do, both your unsaid and your spoken language for that too. So one of my classic things that I trick myself with is I tell myself, I don't have time. I don't have time. I want to do this, but I don't have time. What I work on doing now is saying, I do have time, but I would prefer to be doing this with my time. Why do I think that shift is so important? Because now I have power over the situation. I am acknowledging, actually, I have just as much time as anybody else. So if I'm standing in this line, for example, where I feel like my time is being pulled from me, what can I do while I'm on this line to still make the most use out of it? I could call somebody that I've been meaning to call. I could respond to an email. I could even film a screen capture video on my phone critiquing a piece of sales copy for one of my mentees. So rather than just complaining about being in line, thinking backwards, I try to think forwards all the time.
Oh, I love that trick. I love that trick. So give us Ninja 101 copywriting. If we're new, if it's, this is our business, how do we look at copy?
I think it's best to begin with a macro approach to copy. So sit down and give yourself some of these prompts. What is the big promise that I am making to my customer? And really, that's a twofold question, because I believe that your product should make a promise, should fulfill on this promise. And I also believe that your sales copy itself, be that an about page or a product landing page or an email or a long form sales letter, what is the promise that that piece itself is making? So that people are hooked in and want to read it, so they're going to get something out of reading the material in and of itself. So that's a very important starting point.
I'm going to pause you there. Give us an example of what you mean by that. Give us an example.
An example of this type of promise could be, say you sell some sort of financial coaching or investment advice. Of course, you would promise the potential gains of that, the potential opportunity there. But something within the sales copy itself might be, I'm going to teach you the 5 mistakes other wealth advisors would never tell you about. So that there is an incentive to even read the piece, learn those 5 mistakes, and potentially feel like, oh boy, I've been taught that this is the right thing, and in fact it's wrong. Therefore, your content is differentiated, you stand apart, you've provided value, and people are more compelled to work with you.
Okay, that's the first thing.
That's the first thing. So another huge macro concept that I want people to think about more granularly, in the sense of truly write this down, the big idea, which is a stumbling block for a lot of copywriters. So I try to relate that to as if you were watching a movie. What's the premise of the movie? So in Ocean's 11, they're going to go rob like this casino. What is the big idea for your work in the sales copy itself? So that could be similar to the 5 mistakes you make. It could be the one stock tip or the one ticker that is going to see 300% gains next year. It could be that a keto diet has some incredible extra benefit that nobody else is talking about or touching upon.
Is it kind of like the movie title, the movie theme,
Yes, I would say so.
Okay.
And I would just, if you were to summarize the movie to a friend in one little sentence, use that same exercise on your sales copy too, both before and after writing it. Or if you're a business owner who has received a piece of sales copy and you're like, well, I'm not sure if it's good, these are the things you have to run it through. So within the first 3 pages, you have to ask yourself, okay, what's the big idea? Am I able to define that in one sentence? What is the big promise being made here? Is that clear and identifiable? Am I hooked into where I have to keep reading? And if the answer to any of those things is no, this might sound harsh, but very often the copy has to go back to the drawing board and be worked on again. And that's common, by the way. And it's not a failure. It's just another part of the process. And the more emphasis that is put on honing in on those assets, the better the piece, regardless of being a master of the English language or using very flowery writing and all of these things that folks might be afraid of with regards to writing. They pale in significance to things like big promises, big ideas, and unique mechanisms as well, which would be a third piece.
Ooh, let's hear number 3.
Number 3 is the unique mechanism. And really, there are 3 mechanisms. So there is a mechanism to the problem, which I like to consider the unknown yet common reason why most solutions do not work. Why do most diets not work? What is that one missing piece? It could be because they restrict calories, and restricting calories is not the ultimate solution to burning fat in a sustained way. So let's say, for simplicity's sake, that is the mechanism of the problem. Then you also need a mechanism of the solution. Well, this diet has nothing to do with restricting calories or lowering your calorie intake. It's about, in fact, increasing your hormones that burn body fat. So now you have a unique mechanism of the solution. If you want to get really ninja, you could name that. So we could call it the lipo effect, something like this. And when you name it, what happens is it just sounds cool. But it's also something that now only you can give. The customer cannot get that anywhere else. It's uniquely yours. And then the third mechanism is a delivery mechanism. So how does somebody get the lipo effect? Is it in this pill? Is it in this program? Is it in this framework? And so that is my triangular approach to mechanisms.
Brilliant. So now in your business, you coach copywriters and you partner with businesses. Tell me more about kind of where you are now and what your business does now.
Now, one of my primary focuses is on training and mentoring other copywriters so that they can get extreme clarity in their own value, and so that they can grow in confidence, and so that they can live in better alignment with their ambition. I find ambition to be an incredibly interesting concept that copywriters, artists, women, and many other individuals, they struggle with this piece. There is a belief that if you're incredibly ambitious, you are somehow less feminine, you are selfish. And these are myths that I'm trying to help people overturn via identity shifts, showing them that their ambition is usually not towards something like money or a yacht or a car. There's a deeper identity yearning that is striving to be complete via accomplishment, via helping other people. And so if we focus on that piece, ambition becomes this incredible fuel to get you there instead of something that you're wrestling with all the time. And so many people will say and agree that time is the most important resource. You hear this, categorically. But how much time are we wasting in our heads? So if I can get these writers and these young entrepreneurs out of these binds and get them focused on just taking action, getting feedback from the market, and going from there, they're going to be so much better off. So that's a hugely important part of my work right now.
And that's what we're here for. You said something interesting, identity shifting. Talk to me more about that.
For example, I have a young daughter. She's 3.5 years old. And when I first had her, I struggled with compartmentalizing myself as a businesswoman and myself as a mom. And I felt like I had to switch hats and become 2 different people, and myself as a wife as well, a supportive wife to another entrepreneur husband. When I learned that I'm much better off assuming all of that into the one identity of Laura, then I'm able to operate more fluidly in all 3 spaces. And sometimes challenges, of course, still arise. When I miss my daughter because I'm away for a weekend at a mastermind or a conference, of course, I'm going to feel a little pain about that, as you should. She's my daughter. But I also think about, well, who is the woman that I would like her to be? You know, would I want her to be sitting at home when she has these other ambitions and these other goals and this desire to help other people? Of course not. And of course I would want her to be out in the world, testing things, trying things, getting that experience. And I find that incredibly helpful.
So to move more into what you're talking about, in your mind, do you picture the woman you see yourself to be and you try and step into that more? Like, tell us about that.
Yes, very much so. That is an exercise I do quite often. So, for example, the first time I ever spoke on stage talking about email marketing and how to write really good marketing emails, I was terrified. My voice quivered. I spoke very, very quickly. I had a friend in the audience who said, if I had a poster board, I would have held up a sign that said, "Slow down, you're going so fast." And fast forward to the second time, only the second time, that I speak on stage again, I asked myself before stepping out, well, how would I be if I had spoken 100 times? What would I do? And this image flooded to my head like instantly of I would pace the floor slowly back and forth. I would take pregnant pauses. I would repeat key points of emphasis. I would look at different people in the crowd. I would ask them questions and then follow-up questions. I would get it very collaborative. And just having that deep, almost trance-like meditation on this before going on. And then I stepped out on stage and that's what I did. And that was a crowd of about 300 people. So something like that might seem airy-fairy sort of exercise, but I believe that it's incredibly tactical and strategic, and it's something that anybody can do.
I love it in any situation, in any part of your life.
Yes.
I love that idea of combining all pieces of your life into one Laura. Like, you can do it as a mother, you can do it on all levels.
Yes.
So being a female in this male-dominated copywriting industry, how is that? What do you have to say to women who are watching?
I often find, especially in training a lot of copywriters, that women can make much better copywriters than men. Of course, it's not a competition. Men are great too. I love them. But women have this receiving energy, this natural empathy most of the time, and incredible communication skills. So if you can put that on paper, you, odds are, have some copywriting chops somewhere in there. So I think for aspiring female copywriters, recognizing that, leaning into that space would be a very good start, a good source of strength. It does require a strong backbone, the ability to assert yourself in the conversation, the ability to sing your praises. Everything copywriting, internet marketing, this new realm of entrepreneurship in the digital era, there is a lot of talk. It's very loud. It's a very noisy space. So speak as well. Share both the struggles and the triumphs. You know, you often have new male copywriters say, oh, wow, I've closed 5 clients. My letter has done this and that and the other thing. And I have some women mentees who say, yeah, I had a fantastic month this month, but it's not consistent. It's not every single month this happens. This is the life. And I'm like, well, why don't you share that? Like, share what the true story is. You don't have to lie. In fact, it'll only make you so much more relatable. And I'm sure the guys will even come and say, oh, yeah, that's true. I've had this exact same experience. Frame the question you want to answer. You don't have to answer anybody else's question. Ask yourself the question you want to answer and then answer it in a public way. And that is going to draw your ideal clientele to you. It's going to make you visible in your marketplace. And again, you don't have to be a 10-year veteran copywriter to be able to do this. You can read your first book about copywriting. You can notice an interesting marketing email in your inbox, and you can share your thoughts on that. Share some questions about that. Wonder how it's performing. And just by being active in the space in that way, you will get traction.
I love what you're saying because it can apply to copywriters. It can apply to influencers. It's speaking to women about don't try and be a man, how the man does it, or the woman sitting next to you.
Yes, exactly. And that is what I have found because, I could tell a lewd joke. I could have a shot at tequila. I could hang with the guys. And I could go pick flowers in the field. And that's all part of me. Again, the identity, like being Laura, just being me, and realizing that that's okay. And it's more than okay. It's great. The more comfortable I get with being who I truly am, the better my life gets, not just because it's much more peaceful and less stressful, but the more opportunity flows to me, the more friendships flow to me, the more esteem I see from my family and friends, and the better I am able to serve and teach, be that at this bit more of an esoteric level that we're talking about, or be, hard strategic stuff. Answer this prompt, write me 10 emails, go rewrite them. It flows all the way through.
I love it. So the series is called The Millionaire Within Her. When I tell you that, what does it make you want to share with us?
That wanting money is great. And there is no reason to try to quell that urge within you, especially for women, and especially when women work together collaboratively. Because one of the things that guys do is they'll go to the steakhouse together and have a great time, but they're also forming business deals together. They're setting up partnerships together. I would love for more and more women to be in that space of we're going to the steakhouse together and we're going to form businesses and partnerships together to lift each other up. We're going to create price floors if we offer services. Nobody is charging less than this. Now we uplift the whole market together. So instead of women's groups, talking about our feelings, and feelings are great, but we need strategic focus and understanding that it's okay and that it's wonderful to collaboratively seek money together.
Oh, perfectly said.
Thank you.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.